Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Clash of the Titans, the War of the Wardens, the Duel of Champions, the Battle of Engines. On the left side, we got the nimble, the fast, the lightweight, Unity. On the right corner, we have the strong, the mighty, the strategic Unreal Engine. Which one is better? In this video, I will definitely not answer that question, but I will give you enough information to answer it for yourself. Let's get going. What is happening, everybody? My name is Anis. Welcome to The Hive, the place where we make awesome games one cell at a time. If you're already subscribed to the channel, I would like to thank you very much. The channel is just starting and it is really appreciated. If you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing. If you're interested in game dev and game design, we will be making weekly or bi-weekly content. So, Unreal Engine versus Unity. This is a question that almost any video game dev or indie developer asks himself. I have been using Unreal Engine for more than 5 years now. And I am still asking myself this question every time I start a new project or every time I start a new prototype. So just get started. First of all, let me give you a brief background about myself. I am a software architect. I started game dev about 6 or 7 years ago. I started using UDK, so it was Unreal 3, the Unreal Development Kit, which was very complex and very complicated to learn and really not documented at all. After that, I moved to Unity. I did a couple projects using Unity, small projects. I learned Unity, found it really nice, really easy. And then Unreal Engine 4 came out, which completely overhauled the UI and the documentation and everything. And I moved at that moment to Unreal Engine 4. And I've been using Unreal Engine 4 for more than 4 or 5 years now. So in this video, we're going to compare Unreal Engine and Unity on about 20 points. We're going to do a general comparison, a technical comparison, and a business comparison. I will not really be saying if an engine is better than the other because it actually isn't. As I said in a former video, like both engines are really amazing, they are really good. It depends on your use case. So if you do not know which engine to use, please watch this video until the end, because at the end I will be asking some specific questions about some specific situations and giving my opinion on which engine is best for each of those situations. One thing to know and one thing that will explain a lot of the comparisons that are coming in this video is that Unity started as an indie engine and then grew to handle bigger and bigger projects. Unreal Engine, on the other hand, started as a AAA engine and then became more user-friendly and could be used by smaller indie developers. So a lot of the comparison points that we are going to see do actually come from this history and from the fact that Unreal started big and went small and Unity started small and went big. So first thing, we're going to talk about the ecosystem, starting with the documentation. Both engines are very well documented. They both have extensive documentations and learning hubs and forums and everything. Unity is better documented because it has been used by indie developers for a longer time, and indie developers are actually very active, so its documentation is way bigger. But Unreal is closing the gap pretty fast. However, Unreal still lacks some documentation for the most advanced features, especially for C++. So if you're using C++, they do have the API documentation, but they do not have the functionalities documentation. The blueprint documentation, on the other hand, is very well developed. And actually, you can do what I do. You can figure out the C++ functions and the C++ documentation from the blueprint, because blueprint is based on C++. So whenever you find a function that you can use in blueprint, actually the function name will be similar in C++ and you can just look for it that way. Second, we're going to talk about the community. Unity's community is way bigger because it started as an indie engine and indies are way more communicative and way more active. Unreal, on the other hand, started as a AAA engine, and big AAA companies tend to be less active in terms of community and less communicative. However, Epic Games are putting great effort into building their community with the frequent streams. You have streams almost every week, hour-long streams about features and about community events, etc. The third point of comparison we're going to talk about is the learning curve. Unreal Engine can feel a bit overwhelming at the beginning, since you will need to wrap your head around a lot of features in order to be at ease with it. It can be a bit overwhelming and a bit complex in the beginning. Unity, on the other hand, feels a lot more like a sandbox when you start. It is easier to get into because it doesn't impose a lot of guidelines and constraints to follow. So it allows you to do things the way you want, and that's why it feels a little bit easier to get into, because you can just start playing with the engine and things seem to work. But this actually can turn into a disadvantage, and we're going to talk about it in more detail when we're going to get into the technicalities of both engines. Fourth point in the ecosystem, we're going to talk about the templates and the example projects. Both engines have excellent templates to start from and excellent example projects to learn from, but Unreal Engine seems to have the edge on this point, because Epic Games are making up for the lack of documentation in the example projects and the templates that they give. Their templates are very advanced, and some of their example projects are almost like finished games. Actually, you can just build them and flip them and ship them, and you're gonna make millions, believe me. Fifth point of comparison for the ecosystem, we're going to talk about the asset store and the marketplace. As for the documentation and the community, it is quite clear that the Unity asset store is way more packed because it has been around for a longer time, and because the Unity community is way more active. The Unreal Marketplace has been around for less time, so it has less assets, but still it is getting more filled with content and with quality assets, especially from Epic. Epic are giving up a huge amount of free assets, from the Paragon characters with their animations and their skins, to the Infinity Blades characters and environment assets, to their tools they use for Maya, for example, for rigging and everything. They are giving a huge amount of assets. Also assets like the Quixel Megascans. So Unreal bought Quixel and they gave up all the Megascans, which are a collection of photorealistic textures that are absolutely amazing. They gave them for free. It is pretty amazing. Epic Games also give 5 free assets on their marketplace every month, so you can just go and grab the free assets every month and you build yourself a library of assets. It helps a lot when prototyping. It avoids the search for assets, temporary assets, when you're building prototypes and starting a new game. So that's it for the ecosystem. Now we're gonna get into the technical comparison. Starting with point number 6. We're gonna get this out of the way: graphical fidelity and graphical performance. Everybody tends to agree that Unreal Engine looks a bit better out of the box than Unity. If you are really looking to make a photorealistic and amazing game graphically, Unreal Engine is gonna be the tool you should use, because they are investing a lot in architectural visualization and graphical fidelity, and they acquire things like Quixel with their Megascan. So if you want really your game to look absolutely fantastic, you should go with Unreal Engine. But if you're an indie developer, this should not be a concern of yours, because making a game that is photorealistic and that looks absolutely amazing takes a lot of effort and a big team, and you will not be able to achieve that, or you will need a lot of time to achieve that if you're an indie developer in a small team. For me personally, this does really not matter a lot, because if you're an indie and if you're making an indie game, you can go with both of them. They both have shipped some crazy beautiful games, and if you're looking for a photorealistic beautiful game, then you're probably very experienced and you know already which engine you're gonna use, and you have a big team and you have a lot of budget, so you do not care about this anyways. Point number 7, level design and level art. Both engines have very user-friendly editors. If you're used to any 3D tool, you're gonna be at ease with both engines, Unity and Unreal Engine. Unreal uses a grid system for snapping, so it is really easy to do urban environments and squarish environments when you have kits. Unity uses vertex snapping, which is easier for nature and forests, deserts and all that, but they both work well for both cases. Unreal Engine has a BSP, a binary space partitioning system, that you can use directly in your level to block out your level. Unity doesn't have this, but they have their Pro Builder, which allows you to build in Unity 3D objects that you can then use in your level. So workflows are a bit different, but you can do the same thing. You can block out your levels directly in the engine without the need to go back and forth between your engine editor and a 3D software. Now we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty, the programming and scripting languages. Point number 8. Both engines now have written code and visual scripting. You can, in both engines, make a game only with code, and you can make a game without writing a line of code in both engines. So for this first concern, they seem to both be equal. Unity uses C#. C# is an easy language to get into. It is also a modern language and a fun language to use compared to C++. It is way more convenient because it's more modern, and some advanced concepts in C++ are handled automatically in C#, like garbage collection, pointers, all that stuff. So it is just an easier language to get into for beginners, and a more fun to use language on the long term, even for experienced programmers. Unity didn't used to have a visual scripting language included in the engine. They did have some plugins in the asset store, but recently Unity acquired Bolt, which was the most popular option on their asset store, and they included it in the engine. So now it doesn't matter if you're using the free version or paid version of Unity, you get the visual scripting Bolt included in the engine. Unreal, on the other hand, doesn't have C#, it uses C++ and or Blueprint. And Epic Games actually recommend to use a combination of C++ and Blueprint. Personally, after using this for 4 or 5 years now, C++ and Blueprint, I can clearly state that if used correctly, this duo is just absolutely amazing. I know that a lot of people are a bit scared of C++, but if used with blueprints, it can be actually pretty simple and it can be very, very powerful. And it actually makes architecture in big games a breeze, very simple. So in Unreal, you can make games only with C++, you can make games without writing a line of C++ only in Blueprint, but the magic happens when you combine both of them. So basically you have your basic architecture that is in C++, you define your base classes in C++, and then you inherit from those base classes, you create child blueprints of those parent C++ classes, and you define your assets, you redefine the functions that you want to redefine, you override the functions that you want to override, and you can call C++ functions from Blueprint, and you can call Blueprint native events from C++. So this is just, I know I seem like a fanboy, but this is actually, for a software architect, this is absolutely amazing. You can do any architecture you want very easily, you can implement any design pattern you want very easily, and when set up correctly, it makes adding variety to your game. So for example, when you define weapon base classes and then you want to add weapon variety to your game, you just create child blueprints and you can just make weapons that are basically completely different from your base classes, but without rewriting any of your base classes code. You just override what you need directly in blueprints. It does really work really well, believe me. One thing that is also really good with the combination of C++ and Blueprint is that you can use the convenience of Blueprint to prototype your game. And then when you're finished prototyping, you can move that code if you need to C++ to make it more stable, more optimized if you need to, or just to keep your blueprints kind of clean and simple. So even though C++ can feel like a very complex language, it is actually one of the most complex languages and also one of the most powerful that exist, but Epic Games did an amazing job with their macro system to make it feel like a modern language. So with the use of macros, it is almost like a modern language like Java or C#. It is not that user-friendly, but it is definitely easier than just standard C++. This combination is also very good to collaborate with your team. So if you're a programmer or if you have a programmer in your team and artists will not want to use code or will not know how to use code. So your programmers can define the architecture and the base classes, and artists can also help with the logic of the game through blueprints. So you can just basically define your C++ classes and create the blueprints, and artists can directly get into the blueprints and start playing with the logic of the game, which actually gets them into coding and gets them into programming. And it is always good if everybody in the team has a little bit of knowledge of programming, because it's really important that it makes things easier. So anyway, this is a very long subject. If you're interested, let me know in the comments. I can make a video about the use of C++ and blueprints in terms of architecture, how I use them, how to implement design patterns with C++ and blueprints. So yeah, if that is of interest to you, comment below. Point number 9, architecture. Engine architecture. Unity is like a sandbox, like I stated before. It allows for a lot of flexibility, which makes it easier to get into, since you do not care too much about architecture and respecting constraints and following guidelines and all that. But this is the disadvantage that I talked about at the beginning of the video. It makes architecture in big games a bit complicated because you're gonna need to set up your own architecture and scaffold your project yourself. And for beginners, this can lead to redoing a lot of things and refactoring your game again and again. The more you learn and the more your game grows, you're gonna figure out that some things you did wrong, and you're gonna have to redo a lot of things and refactor a lot of pieces of your game. Unreal Engine, since its fourth version, has been a lot more architectured and data driven. There are a lot of constraints and guidelines to follow, which makes it a bit more complex to get into compared to Unity, because it might seem that you need a lot of classes and files and structs to do some simple stuff in the beginning, which might put off some starting game developers. However, the more your project grows, the more you will appreciate having all those constraints and guidelines, because since the beginning of your project you will have to put everything at its right place, and when your game will grow and when you will have a lot of code and a lot of files and a lot of variety in your game, everything will be set up correctly from the start, and you will not need to refactor everything and redo a lot of pieces of your project. Unity have developed their DOTS system, data-oriented technology stack, which brings a lot more architecture to Unity and gives some constraints and some guidelines. This is actually something good, but it actually takes a lot of the simplicity that Unity has. So if you start using Unity directly with dots, it is almost going to be as complex to learn as Unreal Engine. So it is good to know that Unity are working on something like this, because it's much needed. I think it is a necessary refactoring of the engine if they want Unity to be able to handle big AAA games. Point number 10, we're going to talk about the tools and the tooling. Unreal Engine is definitely more complete in terms of tools. It has almost every tool you can think of. It even has sometimes 2 or 3 tools to do the same thing. It has, for example, Cascade and Niagara to do particles. It has Sequencer and Matini to do cinematics. So it is really complete in terms of tools, and it actually feels the tools are quite modern, and they do feel coherent, and they work the same way, they respect the same principles, they have kind of the same workflows, they use almost the same scripting language, which is Blueprint, but it is a specific version of Blueprint for some tools. And the thing is, the more tools you learn, the easier the other tools get. Because as I said, since they respect the same principles, the same workflows, if you start learning Unreal's tools, at a certain moment you will just open a tool that you've never used and you will almost know exactly what to do in it, because the tools are really designed to be coherent together and to work well together. Unity, on the other hand, doesn't have all the tools that Unreal Engine offers. It lacks some tools, but it makes up for them with its huge community. And if you go in the asset store, you can find tools for almost anything you want and anything you don't want also. That, on the other hand, can make some tools in Unity look kind of detached from the core engine, but you can find anything you need in terms of tooling for Unity in Unity or on the asset store. Keep in mind that for some of these tools on the asset store you will have to pay for them, but the prices are reasonable considering the quality and the functionality that you get on these tools. Whew! We're already halfway. 10 points. 10 to go. I didn't think this video will be this tiring to make. I need a coffee. Coffee is another tool that it's really important for indie game development and indie game devs in general. You can't see it because of the camera settings, but it is actually a very nice day today in south of France. Really love it. Let's get back to work. Coffee is good. Coffee is really good. You all need a coffee. Did you get a coffee? Comment below. Tell me if you took the break to go get a coffee for yourself as well. Man, I don't know what I would do if there was no coffee in this world. Alright. Point number 11. We're gonna talk about the frameworks. Unity definitely has the best framework for 2D games. It is more flushed out. If you want to make a 2D game, use Unity. It has very user-friendly tools. It has a better workflow for 2D games. It just easier to make 2D games in Unity. Unreal Engine used to have a 2D framework called Paper 2D, but they actually dropped support for it. So yeah, definitely use Unity if you want to make a 2D game. Consider Unreal Engine if you want to make a 3D game. Unity is also really good for 3D games. It is just that Unreal Engine has a lot more already set up for first and third person shooters and also online games. If you're making an online game, Unreal Engine is definitely the way to go. So if you're interested in third person character design, I made a video about third person character design in general. I analyzed some really amazing games and I also talked about how I designed my character, and I used Unreal Engine, so it can be of interest to you. I will link it in cards, description, balcony, everything. Point number 12, systems. As I said, for the tools, Unity has an immense community, so there are systems made by the community. On the asset store you can find everything you need: inventory, missions, dialogues, everything you need. You will find systems on the asset store. On the other hand, in the engine included, there aren't much systems. It is pretty bare bones. You will have to make or buy your systems yourself. Unreal Engine, on the other hand, they keep bringing systems from their flagship games, from Paragon, Fortnite. So they bring some amazing systems and they include them in the engine. These are complex to use, but they are kind of the best of what you can get. So we can speak about the gameplay ability system, which is the system they used on Paragon and they perfected on Fortnite to manage everything that is gameplay action. It basically covers everything that can happen in a gameplay action. From defining the stats of your player, to triggering an action, to affecting a stat, to playing an animation, spawning effects, playing a sound, all that. A system that manages all this and does it in a data-driven way. It is really an amazing system. For my game, Warden's Will, since it is a roguelike, I have a lot of characters, stats, perks, skills, weapons, all that. So I am using the gameplay ability system. If you're interested in a video about this, please let me know in the comments. I can take time and make a 10 or 20 minutes video to explain how the system works and how to set up a basic prototype with gameplay ability system. They are also bringing systems like the Epic Online Services. This is actually something amazing, because the Epic Online Services are some of the online services they use on Fortnite. So they have matchmaking, lobbies, stats, storage, everything. But the thing is that it is actually free to use, so you do not pay anything, which is completely insane. I don't know why they're doing this. Epic Games, are you crazy, man? And it is actually free to use with any engine you want, not just Unreal Engine. Epic Games, are you fucking crazy, man? Anyways, so yeah, Epic Online Services, complete online services that you can use free with any engine. But they are actually easier to integrate with Unreal Engine since it's their services, so it will be easier to integrate. And they also have some crazy systems like the Chaos Destruction system that they brought, the Niagara particle system, which is very modern. They used to have Cascade, which was kind of like Unity particle system. Just heard something. Yeah, but they brought a new particle system that is called Niagara, that is a bit more modern, easier to use, and much more powerful. So let's move on. Point number 13. Now we're getting into the smaller points with the smaller comparisons. Point number 13, we're going to talk about engine performance. Unity offers much better build times. It takes seconds to build your game in Unity. It is definitely not the case for Unreal Engine if you're building C++, and it just grows exponentially with the complexity and the size of your game. So if your game is big, Unreal Engine can take a lot of time to build. If you're making like some kind of an open world AAA game, it can take 10-15 minutes to build your game if you modify a lot of classes. Unity usually takes a lot less time to build. It is kind of instantaneous. You can just modify your C#, compile, and the things just appear in Unity. So engine performance, yeah, Unity offers much better build times. Unreal, not so much. Game performance. Unreal is a lot more battle tested with some huge AAA titles that shipped with Unreal. Things like BioShock, Borderlands, Batman, Fortnite, Paragon, Mortal Kombat, and much more. So a lot of games, a lot of AAA games use Unreal Engine. So this is why it is a lot more stable and offers much better performance. Unity is kind of known to have some performance issues for games, especially if you make some big games. It will require a little bit more time on your side to optimize and have your game run well compared to Unreal Engine, which offers a very good stability and performance out of the box because it is battle tested with some huge titles that came out that shipped with it. Point number 15, source code access. Unreal Engine offers access to its full source code on GitHub. You can download it, you can clone the Git project, you can build the engine yourself, you can run it yourself, you can modify it, you can do anything you want with it. It is pretty good. If you're committed to making games and if you are going to invest a lot of time and energy in one engine, it is always good to know that you have the source code for that engine and that if you need something, you can just go and look for it in the source code. Unity doesn't offer access to the source code, but if your project is big enough and your team is big enough, you can negotiate that with them and they can license the source code to you. I don't think that will be easy to do, but it is still possible. Point number 16, the updates. Unity has more frequent updates and its developers happen to be a bit more responsive to the community and release updates with the requested features quite often. Unreal Engine has less frequent updates, but they are quite consequent updates. They contain a lot of features and a lot of fixes and sometimes some just amazing new tools every time. Point number 17, version management. Unity version management is not the best because they have a lot of updates. You can easily find yourself with like tens of versions installed on your computer. Unreal, I like their version management better. They just keep one major version of the engine, so all the updates just overwrite that version. So if, for example, you're using the 4.26, there will be 4.26.1, 4.26.3, 4.26.7, but your launcher will only keep the last one, and all the projects will be compatible with that last one. So it is easier to keep versions of the engine on Unreal. It is not that easier to keep versions of Unity because you can easily find yourself with a lot of versions of the engine installed on your computer. That's it for the technical comparison. I am sure I forgot a ton of things because those engines are just like, they can just create worlds today. So there are tens of hundreds of tools and functionalities and features and specs and everything, so I am sure I cannot cover all of them in one video, but I'm doing my best to give you a lot of information about all the points that might be important to you so that you can take an informed decision for the engine you are going to choose for your indie game and indie project. So yeah, that's it for the technical comparison. Now we're gonna move into the three last points, which are the business comparison, and we're gonna start with collaboration. If you are planning on growing a team and having some people join you on your project, so collaboration is going to be something that is important. Both engines have collaboration features. Unity has their Unity Collaborate feature, which is a cloud feature that is integrated in the engine. It is free for up to 3 members and 1 GB project space, and it requires a paid membership if you move beyond those limits. Unreal Engine doesn't have an integrated cloud collaboration features, but it actually has some features in the engine that are not collaboration features per se, but that actually make collaboration in teams way simpler. Level streaming is one of those features. In one persistent map, you can load many maps, many levels. You can see this like Photoshop layers, but for video game levels. So you can have your lighting artist working in a map, your level artist or your level designer working in a map, your gameplay programmer working in a map, and they will work separately, and then when you open the main map it will load all those levels and you will see everything. So this is a very nice feature in Unreal Engine that makes collaboration very simple. Unreal also has a multi-user editing tool where you can connect multiple Unreal editor instances and work in the same session. So you can have multiple artists, programmers, level designers working in one single session and building one world at the same time. Think of it like multiplayer game dev. If game dev was a game, this is a multiplayer version of it. It is just insane that they have this. I don't think a lot of teams use this, but it's actually pretty nice to see they have something like this. And last, in collaboration, we're going to talk about version control. So Unity has Perforce and SCM Plastic I don't know what that is. Unreal Engine also has Perforce, but they also have Git and SVN. Git is something that it's really nice. It is one of the best version controls in my opinion for indie developers. It is free, it is very versatile, it has a lot of functionality. A lot of the AAA companies and studios use Perforce, so it is normal that both engines support Perforce, but I do like seeing Git integrated in Unreal Engine. Keep in mind that for version control, you can still use SVN or Git even with Unity. It's just not integrated in the engine, but it's gonna work. Version control is completely independent from the engine. It's just that when it is integrated in the engine, it makes life and workflows better. Point number 19, we're gonna talk about shipping. Both engines support almost any platform you can think of, and they are really fast to support any new platform that comes out. So you can probably ship your game on a smart fridge with Unity or Unreal Engine, so they just support everything. Do not worry about platforms a lot. But if you're making a web game, know that Unity is better at that. Unreal Engine used to support HTML5. They do not maintain it themselves anymore. They made that a community project, so it's the community that maintains HTML5 support for Unreal Engine. Unity still support web-based games, so if you want your games to run on a web browser, you probably want to pick Unity. And if you want your games to run on a browser, you're probably making smaller games, and it is a better idea to use Unity anyways. But we're gonna get into the questions and answers in a minute. And last point, point number 20, we're gonna talk about pricing. Well, this is not a very important point because both engines have amazing pricing philosophies. So Unity has a free version that you can use to ship a game that makes less than $100,000. If you make more than $100,000, you're gonna have to take a paid version of Unity, which also gives you some more functionalities. There is a first version that is called the Plus version that gives you up to $200,000 of revenue, and then if you move beyond that, you need to upgrade to the Pro version. Let's move on to Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine has no free or paid versions. All the features are included for free. Even the source code is included for free. You can make your game with it. When you ship it, they have a royalty fee. It used to be a 5% royalty fee on your gross revenue, not profit, starting from $3,000, but as Epic Games are completely insane, they moved the limit to $1 million. So let me just be clear. You get all of Unreal Engine for free with the source code, all the tools, all the features. You can make your game with it, you can ship it, and until $1 million, you do not pay anything. Starting from $1 million, you have to pay a 5% royalty fee on your gross revenue. This is an amazing pricing strategy. It is really indie friendly. I love Epic Games, man. They just have some crazy ideas, but crazy nice ideas. It is also important to note that Epic Games have their own game store, which is a competitor to Steam. So the Epic Game Store, you can ship your game on that. The Epic Game Store only takes 12% of your revenue compared to Steam's 30%. And if you make your game with Unreal Engine, the 5% fee is actually included in the 12%. So if you make a game with Unreal Engine and ship it on Epic Game Store, you pay 12% fee in total. If you make a game and ship it on Steam, you pay 30% and 35% if your game is made with Unreal Engine. So yeah, Epic Games are definitely indie friendly. I love them, and this is one of the reasons that I chose them. Besides that, Epic Games have their grants program and now the Mega Grants program, where they just throw money on indie developers that have some promising projects and promising games. So the current program is a $100 million program. You can just apply, you send them a video, a demo, and if they deem your project to be interesting and promising, they will just give you some financial support, no strings attached. So it is an amazing program. I will be applying to it with my own game. I hope it will work. So yeah, that is it for the pricing. And that is it for the comparison. There is for me no clear winner. As I said in my previous video when I spoke about why I quit the AAA industry, the engines we have in the AAA industry, guys, are light years behind engines like Unity and Unreal. They are not user-friendly at all. They take way too much time in build times, in start times. They are not optimized. It is just a mess to work with compared to Unreal and Unity. So we are really lucky to have these engines be free and be available to everyone. So yeah, we're not gonna complain. We just try to understand both the engines and find which one is better for our use case. And right now, I will get into the questions and the specific situations and which engine is better for each situation. Before we get to that, if you like this comparison and like this video, please hit the like button. It really helps with the channel. The channel is just starting, as I said, so it is much appreciated. Share the video if you have some friends that are planning to start an indie game project or prototype and that don't know which engine to choose. I hope this video will give them some information and help them make an informed decision. Coffee. Coffee. I love coffee, man. Let's get back to it. So, which engine should you use and when? Are you just starting off? Go with Unity. It's easier to get into and it will help you understand game design and how game engines work and how games are developed. The community is bigger, the documentation is more extensive, so if you're just starting out, go with Unity. Is your game 2D and are you planning on making only 2D games? Go with Unity. Unity has better tools for 2D games. And that actually if you're planning on making pretty complex 2D games. Because if you're planning on keeping your 2D games really simple, there are some even better alternatives in things like Game Maker Studio and Construct 3, I think, at the moment. So if you're planning on keeping your 2D games really simple, I would actually recommend to check out those alternatives. But hey, that's a subject for another video. Are you just making a prototype? Go with Unity. Unity is faster to work with, it has a faster workflow, and I actually know some AAA studios that prototype with Unity and then move to their in-house engine or even Unreal for the complete game. So if you're just making a prototype, go with Unity. Do you have a small project and want to keep your project simple? Go with Unity. If you're not gonna have a big project with a lot of files and a lot of features, go with Unity. Unity will be faster, it will be easier to make, and you will just ship your game a lot faster. Are you a solo dev and planning on staying a solo dev? This is where it starts splitting. So you can go with Unity, because if you're a solo dev, the lack of architecture is not gonna be too much of a problem, because if you're the only dev, well, you will know exactly where everything is and how you made stuff, because you're gonna put your own architecture and it will not gonna affect you a lot. So if you're a solo dev and planning on staying a solo dev, you can go with Unity, but you can also go with Unreal Engine. Like me, I am a solo dev. I went with Unreal Engine because I am planning on making bigger and bigger projects. Do you have a big project or project that you're planning on evolving and growing a lot? You should go with Unreal. Like me, I have a project that I'm starting, kind of small, but it's actually gonna grow bigger and bigger, so I went with Unreal because the more the project is gonna grow, the more the constraints and guidelines that might look like a disadvantage in the beginning are going to turn into an advantage and are going to make working on the project and evolving it a lot easier in the future. Do you plan on expanding your team and bringing more people to your team? I would advise you to use Unreal Engine because of the better architecture, because it's better for big projects, and because of the tools. Your team members will appreciate the tools that Unreal Engine offers, because they are very complete, very coherent, they work well together, and they will serve your team very well. Do you want to make a shooter game or an online heavy game? Go with Unreal Engine. If you're making a first-person or third-person shooter or action game, you should go with Unreal Engine. It has all the basic architecture for those kind of games already set up, and if you're gonna make an online game, definitely go with Unreal Engine. Online in Unreal is much more developed than an online and multiplayer in Unity. You can still make completely functional online games in Unity, but if you're making an online heavy game, you should use Unreal Engine. And last but not least, do you plan on getting a AAA job afterwards? You should go with Unreal Engine. I know a lot of AAA studios that are switching from their in-house engine to Unreal Engine. Big studios that you probably have played a lot of their games are switching to Unreal Engine. So if you want to start learning game dev in order to get a job in the AAA industry, definitely go with Unreal Engine. They recruit a lot more developers for Unreal Engine in the AAA industry. And also, don't forget that Epic Games announced Unreal Engine 5, which is just out of this world. It brings some extraordinary features for the video game industry. You can just use assets that are made for the cinema with millions of polygons and then just put them in the engine, and the engine takes care of reducing the number of polygons and actually making the level of detail, the LODs, automatically. This will be really nice for the artists. They will just have to make one single asset, the most detailed one, and the engine is going to take care of reducing the number of polygons. Last part of the video. Why did I choose Unreal Engine? I tried both, and I do like the organization and the constraints and guidelines and architecture of Unreal Engine. I want to make bigger and bigger games. I am a big fan of open world games with complex RPG systems. I would like, in turn, to be making online games. I would like to grow my team and my studio and have some like-minded indie developers work with me to be able to make these bigger and bigger open world online games. C++ Blueprint for a developer, for me, it is just unbeatable. I know some people love C# and love the way that they can code very fast and the pleasure it gives, but for big games, C++ and Blueprint, for me, you just can't beat it in terms of architecture, and I really love that. I do love Epic Games and what they do. I am planning on applying to the Epic Mega Grants. I like the fact that they keep bringing amazing features like the gameplay ability system, the Epic Online services, the Chaos Destruction, the Niagara system, the sequencer, all that. They have some crazy big projects as their flagships, like Fortnite, and they keep bringing amazing projects. So that's it, guys, for the comparison. I hope this will be helpful to you to make an informed decision. As I said, both engines are really good. There's no better one. If you are making small projects, 2D games, just starting out, go with Unity. It is really a nice engine, a very good engine with an amazing community, extensive documentation, a simple onboarding. It is really nice. If you are making bigger projects, online games, shooters, or planning to work in big teams and big projects, you can go with Unreal. It is also an amazing engine made by an amazing company with some amazing updates coming every time. And also, whatever you choose, guys, let me know in the comments. Whatever you use, I would like to know. Are you using Unreal, Unity, or even some other things? Just let me know in the comments. And please take some time to tell me why you chose those frameworks or those engines. This was a very long video, probably one of the longest I will ever make on this channel. I do hope you liked it. Please, if you find it useful, if the information is helpful to you, if it's gonna help you make an informed decision, please drop a like, share the video if you can with some like-minded colleagues and friends. If you're not subscribed yet to the channel, please consider subscribing. The channel is just starting and it helps a lot. As usual, my name is Anis. Thank you very much for watching, and until then, I will drink coffee and see you guys in the next video.